Hello, and welcome to the Wednesday live stream that will improve your English. And today we're on the beach because it's summer here in the Northern Hemisphere.
Mhm.
If this is your first time watching, my name's Craig. I'm from the website mansioningles.com, where you can study English for free. And there's lots of courses for you over there with extra material as well. And if you like listening to improve your English, we also have a podcast that comes out every week on Sunday, and you can listen to that at inglespodcast.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And joining me this week, I'm delighted to welcome my good friend over there, Lynne, who's in the same city but not on the beach.
Well, I'm on the beach in your live stream. I am on the
virtually
beach.
virtually on the beach.
Yeah. But I'm not as close to the beach as you are. That's true. Hi. So if you haven't joined us before, my name's Lynne, and putitlikethis.com is my website. I'm an online teacher and I specialize in tailor-made courses for people. So if you have a specific purpose and you're interested in having a course designed just for you, then that's the place to go. If you go to putitlikethis.com, then you can find details and some examples of the different types of courses that I offer. And then if you're interested in getting in touch, just contact me over the contact page and tell me what your needs are, and then I'll tell you if I can help you or not. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So if you're joining us live, make sure you put your name in the chat, say hi, tell us where you're from. And just one thing I want to mention before we introduce today's topic, and that is that in July, I am starting more conversation courses. So if you're interested in improving your fluency, if you get a bit nervous and anxious when you speak, and you'd like to join me and a small group of motivated students to have conversation classes, send me an email and I'll put my email in the chat for you. Send me an email if you're interested and I will send you information. So, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we're going to do the part 2 of a live stream that we did, I think, back in May. Wasn't it?
It was a
It was
while
the end
ago,
of May. It was a while ago.
before the exams, yeah.
Yeah, because I've been a little bit busy, so I've been a bit I've disappeared, haven't I, off the landscape for a while. Anyway, I'm back now. The exams are gradually coming to an end. And we did an episode at the end of May about the vocabulary the vocabulary that describes our emotions and feelings. And we were looking especially at the way a single emotion, how the words change when it's a noun, when it's an adjective, when it's an adverb, and how we keep switching which word we use when we are talking about our emotions and feelings. It is an area of vocabulary that when you start to speak English a lot, you really need to be quite adept at changing the words in the anecdotes, because you have to keep changing from adjectives to adverbs and things like that. So we're going to do part 2 because we didn't get that far. We didn't get completely through, did we? I think we did like 6 or 7 words. That's all.
And if you did miss part 1, you can see that on your YouTube channel. Is that right, Lynne?
That's right. Yes, I've got
Put
a
It Like
YouTube
This
channel.
YouTube
Put
channel.
It Like This, and you can catch up and see all the recorded videos that we've done, and also on your channel too. I think, isn't it, Craig? You have it on your
Yes.
Mansion Inglés website, the
Also
Facebook website.
on the Mansion Inglés website, you'll find it, and on the Mansion Inglés YouTube channel. Probably
Yeah.
better on the website, where you'll get all the show notes and the exercises too.
Yeah.
And people are joining us live. Hello, Hema's here.
Hello, everyone. Oh, hi, Emma. Hi.
Nelly's here from Spain. Maria
Oh,
Clara
lovely.
from Colombia. Hello. And
Hello,
Concha.
Maria. And Concha, that's great. Hi, Concha. I spoke to her yesterday. and Amparo, yeah. Hi, Amparo from Valencia too. So maybe she's on the beach.
Are you on the beach, Amparo, or are you watching us at home? And Emilio, I can hear you. You just made it. Yeah, fantastic.
Okay.
You were running to join us. That's what we want. Enthusiasm and motivation.
Great.
Fantastic.
And Evelyn and Alvarado. Oh, okay. So you've got quite a few today. Yeah.
Yeah, we changed the time, but that's because we've both been very busy. So thank you for noticing that and for being with us live, because we do want you to participate and
Mm-hmm.
contribute and write in the chat this week, because we've got lots of exercises for you as we introduce these words and these adjectives on emotions and feelings. So let's start with an introduction to it with the verb to interest. So we can have two adjectives from interest. We can have the passive interested or the active interesting. For example, if you think this live stream is interesting, you are interested by the live stream. So
Mm-hmm.
notice that one is more active, one is more passive.
And the active one is the ing form, which is like the present continuous or the past continuous, which is the action, isn't it, in process. So the ing is what is causing the emotion, what is generating the emotion. And the ed form is the way you feel when something
Exactly.
like that is happening.
So if you think this live stream is interesting, hopefully you are interested in what Lynne and Craig have to say. Let's hope so. Let's
We
hope
hope
so at
so.
least.
We do.
So bearing that in mind, considering that, thinking about that, let's go to our first verb, which is to confuse.
Mhm.
To confuse, which is not something you want to be. You don't want to be confused. So there we
Uh-huh.
have the passive adjective. If you are confused, something is confusing you, and we hope it's not what we're presenting here on the live
Today.
stream.
Okay, and then we have the adverb, which is confusingly. So sometimes, I think both of us, Craig, sometimes we explain things rather confusingly. It's not our intention, but sometimes we do. So if you need to describe the way you're doing something, you would use the adverb confusingly. And then, of course, from the verb confuse, we have the noun, which is confusion. Confusion. So two adjectives, one adverb, and one noun, confusion.
And
Right.
we don't want to confuse you. The capital ION there is so you notice the ending on the noun as confusion. It's not the stressed syllable. There are three
Oh, yeah.
syllables in confusion, and it's the middle syllable that's stressed. So we say confusion, confusion. Well, don't say confusion.
No,
Don't say that.
don't say it like that. That's
But you
very
do
confusing.
stress that's confusing. You stress the middle
The
syllable,
middle one, confusion.
confusion. And also
Confusion.
notice that adverbs very often, but not always, end in ly, confusingly, and they describe the verb, the way you do stuff. So, what do you find the most about English?
So in this sentence, we would put the correct word to put in here is, what do you find the most confusing about English? Now, can you answer that for us? Craig and I will answer it for each other. And while we are talking, maybe you can write in the chat what you find the most confusing about English.
But when
So,
you write your opinion, make sure
mhm.
you use the word confusing in your sentence. The
Or
most confusing or
confused, or
confused,
confused, or
right?
confusion. Try to
Practice
use
it.
one of the words to practice in the correct form. Okay. See if let's while you're thinking and writing your answers, I'll ask you, Craig. Now, of
Mhm.
course, we're native speakers, but sometimes English is still confusing, isn't it?
It
So,
is.
what do you find the most confusing about the English language?
I think it's got to be the disconnect between the spelling and the pronunciation. I mean,
That's exactly what I was going to
how
say.
on earth would you
Uh-huh.
know how to pronounce a word if you only saw it written? And
Mhm.
Spanish is so easy in that respect. You just
Mhm.
read, you just say what you see, say what you
Mhm.
see, read the word, and that's how you say
Mhm.
it, with one or two kind of
Mhm.
pronunciation difficulties. But generally speaking, Spanish is easy. The
Mhm.
written and the spoken is very similar. In English, it's a nightmare. It's terrible.
Mhm.
It's really hard.
Yeah, yeah.
You
And
agree, yeah?
oh, absolutely. That's the thing I would say as well. And that, of course, we have things that exist in English. We have words that have the same pronunciation and they have different spellings. Like, for example, herd and herd. You can talk about a herd of cows, which means a group of cows, or you can talk about I heard. Of course, they have different spellings. The herd of cows is HERD, and the I heard I heard you singing the other day. Heard is HEARD. So of course we have those ones that have the same pronunciation but different spellings. And then we have words that have the same spelling but have different pronunciations and different meanings. For
Row and
example,
row.
row, row, row and row, ROW. So row is in the cinema, you sit in separate rows,
Or
so
it's a verb, to row
lines.
your boat.
It's also a verb, to row your boat. So it's different, completely different meanings. And then a row is another word for an argument. So when you row, and it's also a verb, of course, to
Yeah.
row with someone. So it's awful, isn't it? It is awful.
Hema, sorry. Yeah, Hema
Mhm.
says, for me, it's everything.
Now, Heather, you
Not sure.
cheated. You're supposed to say the most confusing is everything.
Alvarado tells us the
Uh-huh.
most confusing thing is intonation. IN.
Mhm.
Yeah, intonation. Yeah,
Intonation.
because generally speaking, Spanish speakers and Portuguese speakers, they have, is it stress timed or syllable timed? I can never
Syllable
remember.
time. They have
Syllable time.
syllable
Thank you.
timed
And
language.
we have stress
Stress
timed
time
language.
language. So that
And
can be
it's,
problematic.
yeah.
Mhm. And
What else do we have? Nelly?
Nelly says listening. Well,
Mm,
listening usually actually is related to intonation, because the problem with English is that when we speak it, the pronunciation changes depending on where the word is in the sentence. And we do a lot of word linking. We link sounds together between words. So usually problems with listening are very closely related to problems with intonation and pronunciation, or how much you understand and can hear the fact that sounds change.
exactly.
Yeah.
Nadia says that to put the correct accent. Do you mean knowing which accent to speak in, Nadia? If you want to speak
I
like a
suspect,
British person?
no, I suspect that Nadia means maybe where to put the stress. You know, the syllable that you have to stress in the word. Like, do you
Yeah.
say confusion or do you say confusion
Or
or
confusion.
confusion?
Yeah, it's confusing,
But
isn't it?
I'm not sure, Nadia. Maybe you can tell us what exactly you mean.
I think she means stress, where to
Hmm.
put the stress. And
Hmm.
Emilio says he's confused when he has to
Well
speak.
done, Emilio. I frequently get confused. That's excellent.
Yeah.
When you have to speak, and I don't know what
Prepositions.
preposition I should use.
Don't
Uh-huh.
worry too much. I mean, obviously you want
No.
to use the correct preposition, but
Uh-huh.
very often you can make a mistake with a preposition and people will still
Hmm.
understand you. I got up this morning in 9 o'clock.
Hmm.
Yeah, so you obviously got up at 9 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
So it's not critical, but
Hmm.
obviously, especially as you go up the levels and start taking exams, you want to
Then
get
it
those
becomes more. Uh-huh.
prepositions correct and try and
Hmm.
learn the prepositions together with the words you're learning,
Hmm.
interested in.
Hmm.
Okay. Try to make that connection with the word and the preposition.
Yeah. I think that's true, Emilio, that as you go up the levels, at lower levels, the prepositions are more to do with the prepositions of place. So like when you say, my hand is on the box or under the box or next to the box. But when you get to higher levels, B2, C1, C2, the problem with prepositions is the dependent prepositions, as Craig said, between verbs. There are certain verbs that are followed by a preposition, like interested in, dependent on. There are, well, that's an adjective with a preposition. So there are certain verbs which are connected with a preposition, certain adjectives which are connected with a preposition. And I think probably at lower levels, you don't notice those. You're so focused on understanding the adjective, dependent or responsible or whatever, that you ignore the preposition. But as you get
Yeah.
to higher levels, you have to know both. So it's a
And
question of sort of changing your focus a little bit more when you're at higher levels and looking more for the detail in little words that you already know, but maybe you don't connect them all the time.
yeah, but it is confusing. Then you've got sometimes more than one preposition for each word. You've got
Yeah.
to be responsible for something and responsible to someone. So that could also chat. And then, of course, nobody's mentioned phrasal verbs.
Phrasal
All the
verbs.
confusion with prepositions coming together with verbs to make phrasal verbs and
Verbs.
phrasal nouns. That's a
Uh-huh.
whole nother area.
Yeah. Oh, there's Concha.
Oh
Concha said the
yeah,
phrasal verbs. Good old Concha.
you
Well
read
done.
my mind, Concha. You read my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a
Yeah.
process, and I hear many native speakers make mistakes
Oh,
with
yes.
prepositions all the time. So
Yeah.
don't stress too much about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whoops. Got a question here from Marvin
Mm-hmm.
Antonio. What is your advice for speaking fluently? I would say use fluently as the adverb there.
Mm-hmm.
For speaking, and after prepositions we generally put the verb, we always put the verb as a gerund, as an ing.
Uh-huh.
So the advice for speaking fluently.
Mm-hmm.
Lynn,
Mm-hmm.
any advice?
Woo.
That's a
Practice,
big
practice,
question.
and practice. Uh-huh. I think you have to practice. And the thing is, you have to practice aloud. And I think sometimes when people study English, this is a problem if you learn English in a group setting. Sometimes, even though you're in an hour and a half's class, maybe really you only are speaking for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so the problem is you've got to speak aloud. You can't just speak in your mind to yourself. So obviously the best solution is to try to speak as much as you can. So you can do intercambios with people. You try to find English friends. You can pay for one-to-one lessons if you can afford to. But there is another opportunity too, and that is now we've all got the smartphones, and you can actually record yourself, so you can talk to yourself. And one thing that improves with fluently is repeating the same story more than once. So here's a little thing you can do. Think of a little anecdote, something that happened to you yesterday, right? Go in your room and record yourself explaining. Imagine you've got a person sitting in front of you and you're telling them what happened to you yesterday. And then listen to it again. Listen to your hesitation. And then think, okay, I'm going to do it again. Record yourself again. Now you know the story, you thought already of some of the vocabulary, and you repeat it. If you listen the second time, you'll find it's already a little bit better. And then do it a third time, because it's like everything. Practice makes perfect, doesn't it, Craig?
Yeah,
Really?
and it's all about being proactive,
Mm-hmm.
Marvin Antonio. So you have to actually work at it, as Lynn was saying, with
Mm-hmm.
your phone,
Mm-hmm.
speaking in your car where nobody can hear you, just comment on what you can see
Mm-hmm.
around you. Another
Singing along to songs as well helps fluency, because you have to sing, you have to say the words at the same rhythm as the music. So you learn how to link words. And if you can start off with Beatles songs, which are very slow, like, we all live in a yellow submarine. And then you can go on to more sophisticated songs, learn the lyrics, and see if you can deliver the lyrics in time with the person singing. But obviously, these are things to do in the car alone.
Another thing you can do is to join my conversation class, because the way that I get people speaking is using Zoom with a group of, the maximum is 8 people. So I put you with one partner or maybe 2 partners, and you're speaking in breakout rooms on Zoom. So Marvin, if you're interested in knowing more, send me an email and I'll explain how you can sign up for conversation classes with me. Now, we got a bit distracted there.
Yeah.
Let's go back to, where are we? Confuse. Another question for you. Were you ever? Yes is the answer to that.
Absolutely, all the time for me. I hope you've managed to guess that. Were you ever confused by maths at school? Because maths confused you. Yeah, so we need the
Were
verb
you,
there.
Lynn?
Oh, all the time.
Me too.
I haven't got a vision for maths. I never understood maths, really. I could do maths. I wasn't bad at maths, but I just followed the steps. But I don't think I ever have understood maths.
I was in a quite
like
high.
some people understand things, don't they, about maths, but I don't.
No, I was at a high class initially, and then I had to drop down to a lower class. I've always been. I get a block. Some people get blocked with languages and blocked with other subjects, but I just get blocked with maths. I just have
With
no
maths.
clue.
I was okay as long as I was following steps, So I was in quite a high group, but I was always the bottom of the group, and I never understood anything the first time it was explained. So it was a bit sort of demotivating, I have to say. I'm happy to get rid of maths. I was.
Me too. Okay, let's move on to another word, stress, which has become quite a buzzword these days. A buzzword is something that many people are talking about. It's very popular. Many people suffer from stress because of what's going on in the world and what's going on with COVID, the pandemic, work, finance, money. So let's look at some of the different forms. And prepositions. You asked about prepositions earlier. You stress about something, or you stress over something. Are you stressed about money? Are you stressed over work, for example? And I've just used the adjective to be stressed about something or stressed over something.
And then there's another adjective. Now, this one is irregular, because we don't have the ing form. We don't say stressing. So this is irregular, this one. But we say something is stressful. So if something causes the feeling of stress, the adjective is stressful. Stressful. So something is stressful. My job is stressful.
And as I mentioned before, adverbs often end in ly. So stressfully, double L. Let's think of an example with stressfully. I gave. I can't. Can you think of an example?
No, I don't think we actually use that adverb.
It's not very common,
much.
Is it?
It's not very common. No. You could maybe say he explained stressfully, or he stressfully explained the situation. But it would be very rare, I think, to use stressfully. Have you found anything?
I'm searching. It must have been a stressfully exhausting day for everyone involved.
Yes, that could be. A stressfully exhausting day. So there you're using the adverb to describe an adjective. The stressfully exhausting day. But it's quite rare, I think, that one.
Yeah, it is.
But stress, the noun, is very common. Stressful and stressed. And I think that the difficulty for most people is when they say I'm stressed or they say I'm stressful. But you've got to be careful, because if you say I'm stressful, it means you are causing the stress to everybody else. So that's usually
which
an
might
error.
which might be true, but
No,
just
it's
know that
uh-huh.
know what you're saying.
Yeah. No, sometimes, but we don't often say I am stressful. We say he or she is such a stressful person.
My
Yeah,
my
we
job is
blame somebody
stressful. I
else.
have a stressful
Hmm.
job. There's also a phrasal verb, to be stressed out,
Uh-huh.
and we use the same preposition. So to be stressed out about something or stressed out over something.
Hmm.
So
And
here's
that
the
means
question.
to be completely stressed. Uh-huh.
So here's your question. What
Hmm.
makes you feel stressed or
Stressed. Uh-huh.
stressed out? If
Hmm.
you can think of an answer, practice the vocabulary, write a sentence in the chat,
Hmm.
and we'll help.
Emilio has a question already, and he says, could at be used with stress? I feel stressed at some situations. I wouldn't personally use at. What about you, Craig?
It's not common, is it? No,
No, I
no.
think I'd say I feel stressed about or I feel stressed in some situations. That could be possible. I feel stressed over some situations, or I feel stressed in your sentence, Emilio, when I feel stressed, in some situations that are unpredictable. No preparation is possible. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've just Googled it. What you can do is, if you're curious about these dependent prepositions and if they're possible or not, what I often do is I'll put a Google search with the two words in inverted commas.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you get like lots and lots and lots of results, then it's quite common in written English, not spoken.
Mm-hmm.
Because as far as I know, Google is only scraping and searching for written text.
I don't
So,
think so anymore, to be
uh,
frank with you, because I've heard that they're actually doing transcriptions now. But
oh,
I think
really?
a more reliable place to look rather than Google is go to the Cambridge Online Dictionary and put stressed at, and it will tell you if it exists, and if they usually give you an example, and that's a little bit more reliable than the Google search, because the Google search could pick up examples of people using the language incorrectly. Hmm.
I've just done that, Lynn, and you're
Hmm.
right. It doesn't give stressed at
At
as a
it won't give
result
it,
on
no.
cambridge.com.
Hmm. But it will probably give you a result for stressed over or stressed
Stressed
about.
stressed out, we get quite a
Stressed
lot.
out. Uh-huh. So it gives you, and the thing is, if you use a reliable dictionary like Cambridge, the Cambridge Learners Dictionary, or Longman or Collins, they usually will give you the most frequent use at the top of the list. And as you go down the list, it shows like rarer uses of the words. And it will always give you examples. So that's the best place to look there.
One thing I
Mhm.
noticed on Cambridge is the pronoun separating the phrasal verb. It stresses me out.
Out.
Yeah, it really stresses me out. Traffic really stresses me out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then Clara's got a question. By the way, Emilio, I absolutely agreed with what you said. That's exactly what I've written down here. In answer to that question, I feel stressed in situations that are unpredictable.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, me too.
When we're not prepared. Okay, what does Maria say? Can
Can
about
about always be
be
used, or
used?
any exceptions we can only use over?
Oh,
Hmm.
stressed about.
I'm stressed about my job. I'm stressed over my job. I think they're very, very
I
similar.
think they are. I couldn't imagine.
Interchangeable, I would say, in most
Hmm.
cases. There might be exceptions, but I think you're pretty safe with those two.
With those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
I'm stressed. See, I wouldn't say I'm stressed over flying or I'm stressed about flying. I would say flying stresses me out.
Hmm. We
Flying
often use the
stresses me.
phrasal verb.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So, any other comments? No, let's move on.
Okay. So next question.
Um,
That was what makes you feel stressed. Uh-huh.
ah, What kind of situations are the most? So this would
stressful for
be
you?
a noun, wouldn't it?
Uh-huh. No,
No, no. Sorry, the
it's an
adjective.
adjective, but
The
it's
adjective.
the previous question was the previous question used stressed, and this one is what kind of situations are the most, so this is causing, this is the active adjective, what kind of situations are the most stressful for you?
Hmm.
Hmm. What can you answer that one, Craig?
Well, you've
And
just
by
said
everybody
unpredictable.
answer.
Yeah, everybody
Uh-huh. That
write what's
right.
personal for you.
What's personal for you? Yeah. Hmm.
Always when you're practicing vocabulary, if you can personalize it and give examples from your life,
Hmm.
it will there's more chance you'll remember it. It will stick
Yeah.
in your mind. So for me, um what's situations the most stressful for me? I think I would agree. I think when I'm running short of time, when I'm very busy, when like today I was stressed out because I had a lesson and then I had to come on to do this live stream and I had lots of things before that really got me anxious about how much time I had today to do everything.
Hmm.
So I think it's meeting deadlines when I have
Hmm.
a date or a time to do things by. I find that very stressful.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Like having lots of things pending, lots of things that are waiting to be done, and you
A
think,
big
"Oh,
long
will I ever?"
to-do list.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
And then you
no,
have
no
to
look in the future.
and then you have to prioritize your to-do list, what's most important, but then you have
Hmm.
like 5 or 6 things that are really
Hmm.
important. You're like, I'm stressed."
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think for me, things that are stressful are often, of course, things that are unfamiliar and that have the potential to be unpredictable. I
Yeah.
remember, I mean, it doesn't happen to me now because I'm an online teacher, but I'm quite an extroverted person. Craig knew me when I used to teach in person with the classes. But Craig, the thing that used to stress me out every year was the first class of term when we
Yeah.
all got new classes. I
But
used to be
that's the but that's
so
the
stressed out
But that's
meeting suddenly
the
14 people.
unpredictability. It's
Hmm.
not because it's always they're lovely, lovely people, but it's the
Yeah. Uh-huh.
unpredictability of not knowing what the students are going to be like, I
Hmm.
think. That's what used to stress me out. The
Yeah.
first class was quite easy from a teaching perspective, but
Yes,
you
of
just
course.
didn't know who you were going to get in the
Uh-huh.
class.
Yeah. That's true. And whether they would like you. You always go in and you're at the
Yes.
front and you please like me.
Yeah, and that's why I don't teach children, because I think in the first class you're not supposed to be liked when you teach
No.
children. You're supposed to be strict. Concha says she stresses out when she's traveling. Yeah, transfer,
Ah, okay.
especially when the first flight is delayed and you have
Mhm.
a connecting flight.
Mhm.
That's really stressful, but that's something that's out of your control. It's like
Mhm.
being in traffic and arriving late. You can leave early, but if there's a lot of traffic or your car gets a puncture or there's an accident and a traffic jam, you have no control over that situation. As
Mhm.
stressful as it is, you have to accept it and calm down because you can't change what's happening.
Mhm. Mhm. Not at all.
Yeah,
Maria, the most stressful when you have to speak in public. That happens to a lot of people. Uh-huh.
yeah.
I'm okay. I think as a teacher, you kind of learn how to speak in public. But I agree. I don't like speaking in public if I'm not prepared, I have to
Mm.
say. Hmm.
Or if I
And
don't know the subject very well.
yeah. And you know what I also find quite difficult is when I have to speak, like, in family situations, like say the rest of your family is celebrating something for you, like it could be your birthday and they've given, and you have to kind of stand up and say thank you.
Hmm.
And I never know what to say except thank you. I'm always so moved, but I'm not very eloquent at expressing um the deep feelings that move me. I can't do that in public. I can talk about everything else, but like really talking about personal feelings in front of a group of people, I find quite stressful. Uh-huh.
I find it stressful speaking off the cuff. Now, you said about being
Yes, uh-huh.
prepared, so I put that
Yeah.
expression in the chat if you don't know it. If you speak off the cuff, this is if you have a shirt, your cuff is here. I don't know the connection. Maybe you've written the speech off the cuff. I don't know.
I don't know.
But
Uh-huh.
speaking off the cuff is just speaking without being prepared from your head
Mhm.
instantly. And I'm not very good at
No,
that.
me neither. You can see everybody. It looks like we're speaking off the cup, but we do prepare this class.
Yeah, you see,
we have all our answers prepared.
it looks incredibly professional, like the BBC News, but it's not.
No.
I've got my notes here next to the computer, next to the webcam.
Mhm.
Final question with stress: how do you deal with stress? What are
Ah,
your coping mechanisms?
yeah,
That's a good
please tell
expression.
us. What are your coping
How do you
mechanisms?
cope with
How do you cope with
stress?
stress? What about you, Craig? How do you cope with stress?
Um, how do I cope with stress? If I'm speaking in front of people and I'm anxious and nervous before, I go into the toilet, into the men's room, and jump up and down and do
Do you?
deep, yeah, to get the
Really?
energy going and do deep
Ah,
breathing exercises. Go,
uh-huh.
try and control your breathing, because if you get very stressed and very nervous, sometimes it's not easy to breathe. So I
Mhm.
practice deep breathing,
Mhm.
and I used to meditate, but I've lost the habit of meditation. How do
Mhm.
you cope with stress?
I don't know whether I can say it.
Couple of vodkas,
No, a gin and tonic. That's what
gin
I
and
was gonna
tonic.
say. I
Yeah,
used
that
to
helps.
when I was younger, I don't smoke anymore. And I've never been, even when I was younger, I never smoked regularly and I was never a heavy smoker. But when I was very stressed, I did used to think I needed a cigarette. And the cigarette used to calm me down. So when I was very stressed, I always had a packet of cigarettes in the drawer and I would go for a cigarette. And
Yeah,
that was years ago. And now I don't smoke at all. But I have to say that if I am very stressed, then once I'm out of that situation and I have to come down, then the way for me to relax is to sit down and have a gin and tonic. But it's not a mechanism before I have to go into a stressful situation. I don't have a gin and tonic before I go into a stressful situation. That would be terrible.
well,
This is
one
the
I
way
don't
to
think.
this is the
Mm,
way to sort of calm down afterwards, to like sort of
yeah,
to calm yourself, to stop you being nervous, but it's not before. I don't know what I do with stress before. I think the best way to deal with stress is just go into it. Once you're doing the thing, then you function, or I do anyway. Once I'm in the middle of it, I manage. But then it's afterwards that I feel the stress afterwards, I think. Mhm.
yeah. Emilio says, I try not to take myself too seriously. Ly,
Mhm.
too seriously. I've
Adverb
learned
there,
adverb
Emilio. Uh-huh.
because it's how you take yourself. So it's describing the verb phrase. I've learned
Mhm.
that it makes me less exposed to stress.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's a good
Humor.
strategy.
Humor
Uh-huh.
actually is a good strategy. It is to,
Mhm.
to make a joke, to laugh.
Mhm.
Also thinking that everything can be sorted out
Mm.
and solved. The only thing is to get there alive, so to speak.
Speak.
Yeah.
Nice phrasal verbs, Emilio, too. Sorted out. Uh-huh. Yeah. Take myself seriously. I like that. Nice. Uh-huh.
And also very true. I think not many things in life are really important in the long run.
Mhm.
If you think about that,
Yeah.
obviously, if you have your health and the health of people around you who you love, that's the most important thing.
Mhm.
And everything else, I think, can be replaced. So don't get too stressed
Mhm.
because always look on the bright side of life, as Monty Python say.
And you have to relativize things. That's a nice verb, isn't it? To relativize things. You have to realize that everything is relative. You know, what's a big problem for you really for other people might be a very small problem, or there might be much bigger things to worry about. Nellie thinks that sleeping is good. I think that's true, Nellie. If
Yeah,
you're
but
not
can you
too
sleep though if you're
stressed, well, that's it.
stressed? I
If
mean,
you're not too stressed to
yeah.
sleep. But of course, if you do get good night's sleep, usually you can control stress better, I think. Uh-huh.
Susanna says the best thing you can do, in my opinion, is not thinking in, as the prepositions again, think about,
About. Uh-huh.
not thinking about what makes you nervous or stressed. Easy to say, Susanna. I'm not sure how easy that is to actually do.
Uh-huh.
Because if you're nervous, if you're anxious, it's on your mind. It's something that we can say it plays on your mind. If something plays
Mm-hmm.
on your mind, you're constantly thinking about it. It doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
Fran-
And
yeah.
Francisca, you said, I feel so stressful when I have to speak English. Now, that's the example there, Francisca, where you've chosen the wrong adjective. There are two adjectives, stressed and stressful. You feel stressed. So you're describing how you feel. So you need the ed adjective. Okay. The stressful adjective would be if you said the sentence in a different way. Speaking English is stressful for me because speaking English is making the stress. So when stressful describes speaking English, then that's the right adjective. But here, your adjective is describing you. So you need to say, I feel so stressed when I have to speak English. I understand that. And especially when we've just corrected you, which we shouldn't. Don't worry about it. If you use the wrong adjective, everybody will understand. No problem. Okay. So you just go for it. Yeah.
Concha has the
Mhm.
same technique as me, deep breathing when her flight is delayed, take some
Mhm.
deep breaths and read a book or listen to music. If I'm
Mhm.
really stressed, I like listening to hard rock music, something like Led Zeppelin or Van Halen or some
Mhm.
really hard rock music. That de-stresses me,
You
gets
know
rid of
what
some.
I do? I've realized what I often do with that flight situation that Concha's described, because that happens to me quite a lot because with my family being in New Zealand, I do these flights where it happens a lot. And you know what I do? And I used to say this to the kids. I used to say, oh, it's an adventure. So I tell myself that I'm like Indiana Jones and I'm doing something adventurous. And the best thing is that you don't have to pay for that. I usually pay to do adventure sports. But when you're in a stressful situation, you're having an adventure for free. So that's good, isn't it?
But what Lynn has just done, and I'm writing this in the chat, is she has put a positive spin on something.
There you are.
Put a positive spin on something means to turn it around. It's like saying, "Oh, I have to move my flat and take all these heavy boxes to the van or to the
Mm,
car, and then unload the car and take these boxes up 4 flights of stairs." But it's cheaper than paying for a gym membership. You're getting free exercise
mhm.
by lifting these boxes. So
Exactly.
it's putting a positive spin
Spin
on
on
a
everything.
stressful or negative situation.
That's right. Uh-huh.
Do we have time for one more, do you think?
Go on.
What are we
Uh-huh.
doing
You
for
see, we
time?
like talking about stress, don't we? We've been
Yeah.
talking about stress for a long time. Let's talk about the next one is more positive, isn't it?
Yes.
Inspire.
So we've
This is a
got the
positive
verb
one.
to inspire
Hmm.
and our different forms. Excuse me. The adjective inspired. Remember, that's the passive one. You're inspired by something or by someone. Who are you inspired by? Who inspires you? And something is inspiring or a person is inspiring. That's the active. And then the adjective inspirational. That's difficult, isn't it? Inspiration. 5 syllables. Which one is stressed? Inspirational. The middle syllable is the strongest. Inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
An inspirational hymn, an inspirational film, a book, act.
So, what's the difference between inspirational and inspiring? I'm asking myself. I'll have a look because
Yeah,
I'm
while
a
you're
bit stuck there. Yeah.
you check that because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure either, and I'll continue.
Mm-hmm.
So remember our LYs on the adverbs describing
Mm-hmm.
verbs or verb phrases. Inspirationally. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
inspirationally. That's 6 syllables. Say it with me. Inspirationally. Inspirationally. And the noun inspiration. But the stress is not on the final syllable, inspiration, on the third syllable, inspiration. It fills me with inspiration. Doing these live streams fills me with inspiration to teach English.
Okay. All right. So I've got the difference between inspirational and inspiring. Okay. And inspiring means that you are inspired by something or a person or an object, something that fills you with inspiration.
Inspiration.
But inspirational is when something has the intention to inspire. So if something has been done deliberately with the intention. So for example, you can say he is an inspirational speaker. So on TED Talks or something, yeah? I'm going to go to an inspirational talk. And the talk or the speaker has the deliberate intention to inspire you. So it's not by chance. So the hymn, like for example, the hymn is the song in church, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or a spiritual act or something. The intention behind that is to fill people with inspiration. No?
That makes sense. So, for example, Tony Robbins is an inspirational speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And but inspiring is something that just happens, but the intention of the person. So let me give you an example. So, for example, I always thought that Nelson Mandela was an inspiring figure in history. He's an inspiring figure. But Nelson Mandela, that was not his intention. That was a byproduct. He did lots of things. The things that he did were inspiring.
Yeah.
But for example,
but Tony Robbins is an inspirational speaker. That is his job. He
his
has
job is to inspire
conferences,
people.
writes books, and creates videos to inspire. That's his purpose in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our question is, who has inspired you the most in your life so far? So there you have the verb in the present perfect. Who has inspired you the most in your life so far? That's a good question. What do you think, Lynn, while we're waiting for people to write their answers in the chat? Remember to be proactive. We want you to practice these expressions.
I've got 3 people.
Wow.
I've got 3 people. Can I have 3 people?
Of course you can. Of course you can. That's very inspiring.
My mother, my father, definitely both inspired me a lot. And the older I get, the more I realized how much they still inspire me, even though my father is no longer with us. But he still, things when I think of how he spoke to me and what he did for me, they both inspired me. And the third person is my husband. My husband inspires me. He's such a good person.
Does he inspire you to run
I want
marathons?
to be like him. No. He's not that. No,
it's not that inspiring.
No. My husband runs marathons, but I don't know. I wish I could, but
Nelly agrees with you. her husband is also very inspirational.
Yeah, that's great, isn't
Oh,
it,
thank
Nelly?
you,
We're
Emilio.
lucky.
That's very nice of you. Emilio's calling us inspirational. Thank you.
Ah, okay. We have the purpose of inspiring you and we're being successful. Well, it's true, Emilio. We do have that purpose. That's true, isn't it? Because we do try. The whole point of these live streams is to give you hope with English. Yeah.
And Emilio also says that his grandfather was a source of inspiration. That is a lovely expression. Well done. A
Hmm.
source of inspiration for me. Yeah. My
Hmm.
dad, not so much my mum, but my dad really inspired me as far as work ethic. He was
Hmm.
a very hard worker, and he believed that everything you do should be done well. His saying was, "If it's worth doing, Craig, it's worth doing well.
Hmm.
If it's not, don't do it. But if you're going to do it well." So
Hmm.
that stuck with me. That was very inspirational.
Hmm.
Let's have another question while you're
Hmm.
still answering that one. Um, is there any movie, book, or company? Oh, that's an interesting one that you find inspirational
Or inspiring.
or inspiring.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, movie, film, inspirational movie. Um,
I've got
Gandhi.
two.
You see the
I've got
movie
two.
Gandhi? It's quite old
Yes, I've
now.
seen the Gandhi movie. That's quite
I mean,
inspirational.
he was an inspiring character,
Inspiring
Gandhi.
character he was. Uh-huh.
What were you thinking of?
Well, two movies that I thought were very inspiring. A book is Nelson Mandela's autobiography, if you've read the
Slow Walk to
autobiography,
Freedom.
Her Walk to Freedom, and also the autobiography. Well, it's not written by the guy, it's a biography written by a woman about the guy, Louis Zamperini. And
Who's he?
Louis Zamperini was an American. He was an athlete, and then he was in the Second World War. He was I think he was a navigator or a bomber on a plane, and his plane came down in the Pacific, and he survived the Pacific, and then he was taken into Japanese prisoner of war. There was a movie made about the book called Unbroken. It was directed by Angelina Jolie.
Oh, wow. I haven't
But
seen it.
the book is fascinating and inspiring, really.
Mhm.
You cannot believe the desire of, or the the way human beings can be so resilient. I think that's was the very inspiring thing about it, and that's the same with A Walk to Freedom. And there's a movie about. It's not based on the Walk to Freedom, but it is based on Nelson Mandela. Invictus. Have you seen that movie, Invictus?
Yes, the rugby
Uh-huh.
team.
The
Mm.
rugby team, and that's also quite inspiring, I think.
That's
Hmm.
a very, very good film.
Hmm.
In a similar vein, I can say, in a similar way, and I can't remember the name of the guy, but there was a guy who had an accident and broke his neck, and he was paralyzed from the neck down,
Hmm.
and he loved sailing before he had the accident. He had the accident when he was 18 or 19, and
Hmm.
then he decided to, by himself, single-handedly, without no help, sail around the UK. And
Wow.
then he carried on, and then he sailed many different places. And those stories of people who have the courage and the
Hmm.
drive and the motivation to overcome
Mm.
physical difficulties in life and
Hmm.
do incredible things, that always inspires me. Like,
Yes,
how
it does me
where
too.
where do
Hmm.
they find the strength of
Hmm.
character to do those kind of
Hmm.
things? It's so easy to just not get out of bed and feel sorry for yourself, and they do
Hmm.
the opposite, and that's
Hmm.
wonderful.
There's a lovely podcast as well, because people were asking earlier about like listening. You find listening challenging in English. So, of course, podcasts help improve your listening skills. And there's a great podcast on BBC World, as well as Craig's podcast. Of course, Craig's
Fishing,
podcast
fishing for
is the
compliments.
most inspirational. But there is a podcast that's not designed for English learners, but it's designed for English audiences. It's in English, and it's called Outlook. And it's on the BBC Sounds app. And they are true inspirational stories from people around the world. And they're true stories of ordinary people who have done truly extraordinary things. And the presenters of Outlook have beautiful diction. So they're very easy to understand. Sometimes the people they interview might be more challenging to understand, but the diction of the presenters are beautiful. There's these different women, Joe Fidgen and another one, and they have the most beautiful voices. So it's really lovely to listen to. So I encourage you all to listen to that podcast after Craig's, of course.
Yeah, thank you. I put a link to Outlook in the chat, but just search BBC Outlook and you'll find it.
Great.
Got some comments here.
Okay.
Hema doesn't feel particularly inspired, although you have used the word correctly. So well done, Hema.
Well done, Hema.
Okay. My inspiration is my son. That's lovely.
Yeah, that is nice.
Very nice. Yeah, Hema's seen Invictus. I've seen it 2 or 3 times. I really like rugby as well. So for me, it's perfect.
The thing that inspires me is the leadership qualities and the humility. I think they're the things that I find inspiring about Mandela from his book and from that movie. I mean, I don't know him, but obviously I didn't meet him personally. No, but but from what his reputation as a leader, I think is truly inspiring. But more than as a leader, it's his humility.
Yeah, we don't very often see that in politics these days, do we?
No,
But another
no.
one is obviously Martin Luther King, very inspirational leader and figure, the Dalai Lama as well. But they are very few and far between. Unfortunately, we don't see many of those these days. Yeah, okay. They're really interesting, yeah. Well, I think we're out of time, so we hope we have left you with some inspiration today and that you will go away and study and keep up with your English. And have we decided what we're doing in July? Have we got any news for people who are regular viewers?
Well, that was dependent on you. I thought I said I can on the Wednesday, but you haven't confirmed to me whether we're going to keep it at this time, because you have a problem on Wednesdays a bit earlier. So we're thinking of, we had thought about having it on Fridays, but that seems to be too tricky because we have different commitments. So we are thinking of keeping it at this time for July at 8:45 to 9:45. Is that right, Craig? Or can you take it back to the normal time from 8 till 9?
I can't do it earlier than this, unfortunately, on a Wednesday. But by looking at, there's like over 20 people watching, it seems to be a popular time. So for you out there who are getting, hopefully getting something from these live streams, if you can, Lynn, I think we'll keep it at
8:45 for the month of July. Okay.
For the month of July, and we'll probably take a break in August, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for keeping us company. Thank you if you're watching the replay. If you're watching after the fact, that's very good. We hope you enjoy this. Please leave comments in the chat if you're doing that. And, well, we'll say goodbye. Again, I'm Craig from mansioningles.com, where you can study English for free. And our newsletter is back. So I apologize for not getting... We haven't got the newsletter out to you for a while, but if you sign up, you will now get it. And you can also get the podcast at inglespodcast.com. And don't forget that I'm also opening in July a conversation class conversation group, conversation course for speaking. So send me an email if you're interested, and I will send you all the details.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I only have one website, like Craig with his 3, but mine is putitlikethis.com. So if anybody's interested in tailor-made individual courses, then I'm the person to come to for that. And if you go on putitlikethis.com, there's some examples of the types of courses I offer for different people, because the name of my company is Put It Like This, because I try to help you find your own voice in English, to express the things that you want to express rather than the things that the books want you to express necessarily. Okay, so that's the purpose of or that's the essence of what I try to do. I try to help you find the English that you need for your particular situation. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so thank you for watching. Have a great week. We'll be back next Wednesday at 8:45. No, 2 weeks, or next
For
week.
me, 2 weeks.
2
I
weeks.
don't know about you.
I'll be back. Yeah, I'll be back next week at the same time, 8:45. Yeah.
If you've never joined before, I only come every 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Have a
Okay.
good week, and
All
we'll say
right then.
goodbye.
Yeah.
Take care.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much for your participation. Bye-bye.